Alright, so it's fucking 4:12 in the morning, AM, that's right. I've been up all day. My sleep schedule is basically flipped again, so that's a thing. Anyways, this is about the Lemke differential. Now, why did I come up with this? This is a way to just do something different. I bet you it hasn't been done before because I'm a dick like that, and I'll probably be correct. But because of high technicalities and specificities, and so therefore, suck it. Ha 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 ha. Now, if you laughed, great. Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe, all that stuff. But let's get into it really quickly. This is based upon my old twin. There's a parallel twin here. Cylinder engine that's basically just a torque monster diesel engine that burns the fuel into the actual cylinder, right? Like a rocket engine, which is a pretty cool idea. But at the same time, it's a very low RPM, very, very, very high torque engine. It's only 1 liter, so 500 cc each side. Jokes aside, it is really just for that, right? But that really means it goes to a CVT, to a flywheel, that then goes to another kind of CVT-ish, but it's mostly just a transmission. You see, that's the difference of this differentials. You see, a differential is not what that is. Except, actually, I just did describe a differential to you. You probably don't know. There are 2 CVTs and a middle flywheel here. It's energy storage. Huge torque, the correct gearing here, then stores that energy, and it's also used for your braking. Weird, I know, but it's energy recovery, but you think it means nothing except until you realize that you have to put a massive amount of torque suddenly to spin the flywheel back up. Then I went, a little further, and I said, well, I'll take some of that energy and I'll store it as heat energy and the engine. But I'm also going to dump extra air in there. That way it can heat up air. I'm not going to actually do anything to it. It's just air. Of course, that will produce nitric oxides, except for the fact that you can explosively decompose those. And that's a good thing. You're going to want that. We're just not going to open the valves. Because who gives a shit about the valves opening? It's an air spring. I can dynamically alter the amount of heat like a Stirling engine. And I'm going to use that. But that's neither here nor there, because why don't I just use it as a flywheel? You know what I mean? It's this thing where it's the engine has 50 RPM basically, right? But it has 200 foot-pounds of torque, which is just ridiculous, right? But if you really think about that, that 200 foot-pounds of torque, geared properly, will constantly keep gaining more and more energy stored into a vacuum-sealed flywheel when appropriately geared. That makes it remarkably efficient, and in such a way that I can really ridiculously reduce the size of the engine to gain an efficiency figure that normally would never work with an internal combustion engine. That was the point of it. Especially when I went, well, while I like it, it's not efficient enough and it's not powerful enough. I know, right? It sounds really efficient and really powerful. It's yeah, no, but it's supposed to replace weight. You know what I mean? It's yeah, well, there's a real, just 250, why not? Right? Yeah, get a little tricky with some of this. But it's no, I'm going to do something a little better. I'm going to turn this into a different type of differential. Because where it outputs is not what you think. You see, I have an axle here that's in the center that's counter-rotating to the main flywheel, toroidal plate, whatever you want to go with. They're all very similar to me. on the outside, right? There's going to need to be a way for them to connect, right? But why would you have an axle? Because that's extra rotating mass. That's now got an anti-gyroscopic effect that happens to be able to be connected to, this is the real differential part to some of you, although not to me, your gears, right, that go to your front and rear. That's right. Those are where your axles are. That's your torque vectoring limited slip. Grabs it from the outside of the wheel and can move it towards the center to change its gear ratio and outright torque output. Same thing for the main shaft axle, which can be made to have different amount of hollowness, as I like to call it. It's just thickness of a tube, but they always get a little weird about their numbers. Like, you need to know about it like this. Shut up. You're stupid. Just call it what it actually is. It's a tube this thick with this thickness between an inner and outer diameter. Or it's fully solid. You get all weird about it, you know what I mean? Hyper pedantic, semantic, all this stuff, and you can't pass it, baby. I'm not gonna sit here and take us. Anyways, moving on. It's fine, because all it really means is I have a gear there on that shaft too. That allows for me, not on just the end tips here, but that allows me for between that gear that rotates and takes the shaft high speeding velocity and the relatively lower velocity of the plate, alright, but a much higher torque to combine into a much greater efficiency of mass for flywheel, basically. And since I need something there to connect, not just to the ends, and it needs to be rotating the correct way, and I need a gear there anyways, and that's a bunch of... I use good old ring and conical systems with the balls. Yeah, they're planetaries effectively, but, call them whatever you want. They're balls. Right? Like, it's like... Look, I know it's a ball bearing, but it's really, if we really wanted it, it's a ball gear. You know what it is. Stop saying it's not a ball gear when it's a ball gear. Stop trying to lie to people. It's a ball gear. This is what I imagine. They just go, we can't use that word here. People do the thing with the jokes. I'm like, I don't care. The ball gear is a ball gear. But what that means is, depending on how you ultimately rotate it between the two rings and the conicals that are there, you get your torque vectoring and you get your gearing that you need. That means I can evenly split them directly to all four corners from that one single differential. Now it could be hyper compacted and made to have fewer moving parts. You know what I mean? I also ended up getting into opposed pistons for a long time, and I got the 3 combustion chamber opposed pistons with the double stroke link thing going on and all this other stuff. Actually, I have to put that out again. The whole full complete list of that. I haven't done that in a really long time. I think about it. I'm still working on Escape Plan V3. There's a whole thing in construct. That's getting all the way up into space with this spacecraft idea thing I've got going on. Some of them even involved what Longshot was doing. I saw on Scott Manley's video, which is why I reached out to them. But for some of their valves, and maybe it'll help them out. But their idea is very similar to mine, and I actually was working on valves for Roseworth for a while. Which is why I reached out to them. But moving on. This would be not involved with that this would be just a differential I came up with. I decided to name it after my last name because, screw you, everybody else does it. So why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? So, that's what it was for. And yeah, no, you would think that it'd be really hard to manufacture a ring, right? But we already have ring gears and ones that have trapezoidal, otherwise known as conical. But they're not conicals. And they're just the inside diameter gear grooves that are shaped the right. They get really annoying with their particular shape geometric freaking words. It's a toroidal. It's an inside diameter freaking gear. It's just a ring gear. That's all it is. But it just needs to be shaped more like a slotty kind of dimple groove thing. That way, like, as the fluid goes into it, it creates, from that fluid pressure, its own version of a gear tooth, and it spreads it over a longer distance. Almost like a harmonic drive, except, like, they're actually statically fixed. We just move, like, the ball situation. But that means they can slip, and that's a good thing, because you want that. It'll go right back into the correct gear and not ever overdo it. And then it'll go back into the gear that you were hoping for it to go into. Which is why it's a CVT that works way better. Of course, then there's, strong, just these statically fixed gear ratios here. A part of the flywheel system, which will then drive this. That's a thing. Anyways, but the reason why is because, hey, guess what? Here's a vacuum, and here's some piezoelectrics. Yeah, I wasn't done. What? Yep. And, I'm not even actually done fully. It's an electric motor, technicality-wise, almost. And, using vacuum is good old Stirling and heat effects. It also becomes a generator to store that flywheel energy, because it's in a vacuum. So, like, why wouldn't I do that? Because I kind of need to do that, because that makes it more efficient. And then I can get it back up to all the torque goodness of torquedom that you would always need to torque with all the torques. Have I said torque enough? There's a lot of torque. Makes electric motors look like chump change a little bit, to be fair. But I also got into other things after a while. I was like, do I need it to be that? I could just use, like, this other engine idea I've got, which is essentially just a straight pipe, except it's like a peristaltic pump and a bunch of catalytics strung together that then burn correctly to then rapidly extract all heat and electrical potential energy and all IR and heat, which is what I said, but I really want you to focus on the heat here. Okay, so peristaltic vibrate, they go undulate, right? That means vibration, undulation, spin. NASA, little gun, bzzz, torqueys. Remember when I said torque? I'm trying to prime you with the gun vibrate, make torque happen. Probably don't know what peristaltic means. It means undulational worm pump. That's all it means. It means roller goes squeeze, push out. But they call it peristaltic. Probably because they didn't want to call it a worm pump. Because people would have been all like, like stupid immature brats. But I digress. Because we're getting off topic. See, this is not a standard design. It's my design. It's a Lemke high efficiency, not even a turbine, really, truthfully speaking. It's a generator that's also going to move things and make a large amount of torque. Now, granted, peristaltic, yes. Now, while that does move something, if I have to cool something, and I have to then move that thing to something that cools it, like, a flywheel perhaps, there's usually a fluid of some sort, like, I don't know, a dielectric, non-dielectric dual fluid. Since they have electricity already being made with these photocatalytic, electrocatalytic, pressure catalytic, and regular catalytic with, oh my god, where did this come from? What is this? What am I looking at? You probably don't see it because I'm looking at my pinky finger. There's only 4 that I've counted. There's 5 here. This goes hand in hand in how thermophotovoltaic, thermoelectric, and piezoelectric generating materials, meaning they generate electricity, right, happen to do those things. They're forms of diode catalyst field effect transistors. Now, you might not know what that means, but effectively it's just a static electricity ionic style of catalyst. When you put them together, you burn something through them, they create an electron redox flow and electron holes that you can then use to gain massive amounts more of electricity and movement. Kinetic burn juice go burr the right way, and it gets orientated at a laminar-like velocity, except it cools itself. So it starts off at this small tiny to a large volume, to then back again to a small tiny. Having accelerated, and then needs to, of course, recirculate back, helping then gain a different type of turbine here. Okay, so this moves something, and that's a expansion into this vacuum that's also a part of this. What? I said there was a vacuum multiple times, and you probably should have listened to that. Anyways, what that then means is it expands and it contracts and it moves up and down and it does this little spin and exchanges heat, and that's a Stirling effect along with a metal sponge. And then there's the acoustic resonance here with a Jules-Thomson and a whole bunch of other designs with like a Brayton in here. There's a Lemke cycle in here that I already have in there, along with an Atkins, and it's all using fluid, and it's all using standard, long-lasting, barely moving parts that are very, very hyper-efficient and actually cheap to make. So if you want to say, get out of here, I would say you need to get the hell out of this room, shut the fuck up, because you're listening to my recording. What are you fucking doing? You could just turn off the fucking... What is this? How stupid are you? I don't know. Someone's probably out there, you know what I mean? Anyways. That's the stupid people. You know what I mean? Doesn't make any sense. So, moving on. The general gist here is a multiple cycle that leads into other cycles that make each one of these cycles that have loss gain that loss into their cycle to gain more efficiency overall to all of the cycles. And then I still have a Lemke cycle in here, which is usually a trick of doing all of those cycles together to a degree. But Lemke cycles are a little bit different. Also named after me, because fuck you, don't care. The double strokeling is a Lemke cycle. Thrusting is a type of Lemke cycle. Right? You get what I mean? So if my piston has itself thrusting, that's a part of a Lemke cycle. Nobody else does that. That's mine. Double stroke link, because I have a valve in the piston head. Wouldn't you know it? Lemke cycle. You get it? But don't worry, I also then burnt the nitric oxides generated with a little help from electricity, effectively, and potential an electron redox flow, which then causes it to thrust back up. So, Lemke cycles suck it up. You're probably going, zing! I thought I was going to be able to crawl under all these things that was going to fucking attack you. There's no such thing as your stuff. Shut up. No one cares. There's no such thing of anything until somebody makes the thing and they claim the thing. Shut the fuck up. You want to go back into the fucking room? Sing, sing, sing. Ah! Sir, I'm getting shot at. Shut up. He's not shooting at anything. He's just saying his shit. Why don't you shut up? Get over yourself, you little egotistical, maniacal bastard. And that'd be a good fucking leader right there. I gotta tell you. Anyways, but yeah, as a result of this flywheel and a couple of torque vectors using gears, which happen to be controlled entirely differently than standard hydraulic fluid pressure in a standard limited slip. You see, it's dynamic both sides, both with the amount of torque and the RPM, and the gear ratio, and it doesn't use any real hydraulic fluid. It just allows hydraulic fluid to slip that, so that way it properly delivers the amount it can without damaging any of the components. So it's like an open and limited together with the torque vectoring and hybridization of all those three as a lock differential in its own right it is. Altogether, all of them equaling a Lemke differential. And done better than anyone else's. And it's simpler to make. Cheaper too. Isn't that nice? Because, I can only spin this so fast. It gets easier. Yeah, no, what if I made a gear ratio that made it 16 times suddenly? As an overdrive? That you had to spin this fucker up? And, don't worry. Here's a reverse for you that you have to work against. That makes it really difficult for you to move this thing that quickly, that suddenly. But don't worry, I got the gears all there, ready to take it. They'll handle that torque just fine. But that means I can really get away with barely running my engine on barely any fuel to constantly store a certain amount and always gain more from our atmospheric energy potential. A little solar too is not going to hurt. Why not? Strap it on. Right? The roof, hood, that kind of thing. Now it makes a tremendously greater amount of efficiency than a standard electric motor. Especially if I were to ever use some basic bitch hydrogen. It's like better than a fuel cell now. That 90%, I'm way higher percentage. Why don't I just use my, static thermosiphon heat pump? Oh, yeah. To gain, effectively, a never-ending supply of torque, and then I'll just need to add it when necessary. I'll just throw in some water on my gas tank here. Oh, wait, it's not on, it's in. But I suppose either way, because, what are we talking about? Inside diameter? Or is it the outside diameter? That's kind of the problem I have with the whole fucking classification. They never really talk about that, but, who cares the fuck? You know what I mean? Who cares any amounts of fuck? Do you have a fuck to care about this with? I don't. No. You probably don't either. That's a grammar Nazi that's obviously jealous. You get the picture. Anyways. Let's talk about how we can use this catalytic control system here that uses essentially the same thing as the photo, ionic, electromagnetic, pressure differential, heat, and standard electricity. Which is essentially what we currently have, but with a few fiber optics interlaced in between, and some electricity that we capture from the air anyways, and a little bit of heat that has to go somewhere, somehow, and a change of pressure, meaning volume total, and it just vibrates to help, because guess what, wouldn't you know it, guess what, right? A little cavitation here then goes a long way with pumping this and creating an even more efficient design at creating that sweet HHO. But don't worry, you get oxygen. We don't want to keep that nasty explosive. Wait, I thought it was hydrogen. Oh, right, yeah. I would never. I walk away. It's just regular hydrogen that cools itself off using a constant never-ending amount of acoustic resonance back into the creation of the very thing itself, while it loses a bunch of oxygen to the atmosphere, constantly cooling it at all stages and points. Oh no! My highly insulated, condensed, highly pressurized hydrogen. I could never use this. Oh wait, yes I can. Oh wait, but it doesn't sound like that. It's actually more of like a whoosh at best, for one of those designs, yeah. But more often than not, it'd just be the parallel twin post piston, most likely for you. You get the boom, 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 and that's just max RPM. But don't worry, you got all the overdrive and torque you'll ever need. Gears that have overdrive here are what turn your wheels fast enough for you to go vroom, vroom down the road faster. And because you have all the torque in the world and all the actual fucking gumption for these things to handle it, that material design strength, gumption, material design strength, all the same things. Ooh, yeah! Really, if you think about it. But still it does, and as a result, you're wrong. Whoever said I was wrong, suck it up. It's a Lemke differential. And, yeah, there you go. That's an overdrive gear. Which is kind of the point of the freaking thing. If I started off with it as very low RPM, it has very high torque, and you didn't think, man, he's got overdrive gears, you are probably not on board yet. You weren't getting there yet. But it's okay. I finally got to it after an astoundingly long period of time. But actually, it wasn't. It's under 30 minutes. So deal with that. It's a highly complex fucking idea that I just described to you in under 30 minutes, and so easily that most people will immediately understand what I'm saying, even if I don't need to give you exactingly detailed micron, millimeter, blah blah things, because who are you and what? No, get out of here. The concept is what this is, you stupid idiot. No, the concept means nothing. Shut the fuck up. No one cares what you say. Why don't you think for once instead of tearing down others? You got a creative idea? Come on. I'd like to hear it in the comments. Come on. Where are you? Say something. That you learn to shut the fuck up. Whoever those people are, they need to do that. They need to learn that part. You know what I mean? Be constructive. Be helpful. Be a not gabagoo. You know what I mean? It's a whole thing. But yeah, there you go. Simple, easy, cheap, fast, efficient. A whole bunch of these different concepts all rolled into one for one vehicle. So it runs off of simple things like you putting water into your gas tank and simply leaving it outside. Which you already probably do anyways. So there's that. While you allow for a spinning disc that is still spinning and retaining all of that energy. For a very long period of time. Oh, it's floating on magnets in a vacuum. It lasts for weeks before losing a certain amount of its energy? No! I could never use that. Since it weighs... How much did you say? A lot less, because the lower the mass, this is about force here, but then that's why we have this one and this. So it's torque, this far away from a center of mass, and then this one spins really, really fast, but it's very close to the center, which they, I think, missed the point of that for the increased efficiency here. This super fast one, horsey power. This slower but very more torquey one is torquey torques. Immediate power versus power over time applied. Do you get this? delta V, specific impulse, so this speed total, or this specific impulse, much smaller delta V. Therefore, actually only about this amount of speed total. Now, you know how they get around that? Massive amounts of mass ejected! Boosh! Oh, well, it equaled theirs. Their ionic engine is going to be fully surpassed by ours. Fuck you. That's slow. That is bullshit, and you know that. Fucking slow ass BS over here. The fucking wait 9 years to get up fucking 10 more miles an hour. Not really. But, it sort of feels that way. I'm even gonna laugh a little bit at that one. That's fucking stupidly funny. I had a problem with the ion engines. In general, I made my own plasma double, this is basic, right? Alkaline, right? Too many electrons, and then this one, too little, and then combined and burn. But, I did this is a reverse Bell-in thing. Eventually got to the point where I was like, I can make a toroidal style with the plasma, and then they do the Z-pinch, and then and they hit each other with high luminosity of these individual particles. If they vibrate. So this one's funny. So if you know what luminosity means, it means a certain amount of actual stuff within inside a given area, space-time stuff. So a given volume, effectively. Think this volume of gasoline versus this volume of gasoline, but I somehow squeezed it harder. And then I put more gasoline into that same spot. And then I removed all the squeezy bits. And magically, but it's not really magic. You see, I compressed... Anyways, moving on. If you happen to expand and contract, you happen to move it faster and slower, and you happen to sine wave it the correct way, you can entangle it. And then you can set that up into a given amount of superpositional states that are reflecting and, resonating, essentially, off of each other. This gets them incredibly close, and when a shear effect happens, they then tunnel together and fuse. I have multiple versions of that on my YouTube channel. Take a look. But wouldn't you know it, we're at a time that has nothing to do with this differential. Or does it? A flywheel and the bell end, a beginning slower burn rate, that is released correctly with the right gears here. These are types of electrodes, lights, electromagnetics, and electrostatics. The angle and direct it with this aerospike bell end design that I have that's hollow in the aerospike area, and it's a teardrop that's held on by several stators. Making it so that way I can use all of those things to control this very accurately. It accelerates because, of course, fusion. Now, it's not just fusion. Fusion, if you don't know, actually compresses things. The matter got compressed, right? But that's not technically fully the case. See, we use it as a chaotic measurement. So just because we compress it doesn't mean that it doesn't have that same thing as a chemical potential quantum energy. So it turns into, I was spinning like this and I had to combine with you, and these two information and off to this direction, basically. And I go, if I was that fucking brand new element. Anyways, long story short is, that means it usually pushes things and disorders stuff, which is okay, because if you do that controlled manner-wise, that means you can use that with inside of that to rebound and resonate at various points and stages and burp and bleed the system out at incredibly high velocities, as of course these are also spinning at incredibly high velocities inside of this bell end aerospike combo, which is called a Lemke. That's right, that's going to be a Lemke. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Anyways, you should go look at it. It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's already on my YouTube channel. Point is, it's sort of like the Lemke differential bell end aerospike hybrid combo. Whoa! Anyways, yay, here's a fusion engine. No, I already have several on my YouTube channel. Go look at them. Whatever, bye.